You know, this 55 Chevy right here costs 600 bucks. It's starting to fight back. Let's go meet its opponent.
I'm Joel Micmillan. I'm originally from Upton, Wyoming. I live here in Lewisburg, Tennessee now, and this is my 1955 Chevrolet Bel Air.
Now, I think I've seen you a time or two.
Yeah, well, for one, I do my own YouTube and social media content. At one time, I was a television host for a very well-known automotive program. I can't say the name of it due to legal reasons,
Sure.
but I did that for 4 years. It was a great experience overall. A lot of positive things came out of it. Got to do some things that I never would have got to do if I hadn't had that job. And it helped me improve my production value on and off of camera and some editing skills, and met some lifelong friends that I still have to this day. So
You're kind of a car guy, right?
oh yeah, I was born and raised a car guy. My dad was always tinkering on something in the garage from the time I was a little kid. So I started just kind of hanging out with him in the garage initially. Then I started turning wrenches with him. Got into it when I was a teenager. My first car was a '69 Chevelle, which is really cool. Had a lot of privileged times like that growing up, because not a lot of kids get to grow up in an environment like that.
Sure.
For one, it teaches you a lot of morals and values and hard work paying off and stuff, and to have the privilege of having a Chevelle to and from school. And then we had a '66 Chevelle as a family car. It was a convertible, and we still have that car. We also had a '51 Chevy Deluxe, so there was just always something. It was just always a part of my life. And I went to tech school after high school. Got my degree in welding, automotive welding. Did some automotive classes, stuff like that. Worked in a few hot rod shops. Enjoyed the work overall, and it's a great experience, but I just wasn't making any money.
Yeah.
So I decided to put that aside and start working in the oil field, and I was gonna do that, you know, as a career, and then just work on cars on the side. And then COVID hit.
Oh, okay.
COVID hit in 2020, and I got laid off, and I was just kind of bored, like
Yeah.
we all were. You know, we had nothing to do, and but I still had my Chevelle, and I was like, you know, not a lot of people are doing automotive stuff on TikTok, because TikTok was just taking off at that time. And I was like, there's not a lot of people doing car stuff on TikTok, you know. So I was like, I wonder if anybody would care if I started to do restoration videos, because the Chevelle, it was in all right shape, but it needed redone. So I had never shot or edited a video in my entire life. The day I got the Chevelle in the garage, I started working on it, and I shot a video, and I threw it together, and I posted it on TikTok that night. And after the first hour, I think it had like 10 likes or something like that. And I was like, whatever, you know, it's not gonna do anything. But I woke up the next morning and I had 30,000 new followers.
On your first one?
On my first video.
Yeah.
And so it steamrolled into this whole series and everything, and it just took off. I was on a job, and I got an email from the television company, and I thought it was a joke at first.
Yeah.
But it turned out being real, and I did a couple auditions, and it was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. So in a matter of 60 days, we had sold a house, bought a house, and moved everything here to Tennessee. And I did that television job, like I said, for 4 years, and I decided to walk away about a year after I bought this thing.
And here we are.
And here we are, yeah.
And here we are. There's an interesting story with this car, right? Mm-hmm. Did you pay $600 for this car?
So the story on this car is, we got a tip, me and my buddy got a tip that this guy had passed away. And he was on the Tennessee-Alabama state line. And his wife had this acreage, and she hired this contracting company to mow down all the trees on the property because she wanted to clean up the property. And she told the contracting company, hey, while you're at it, haul off all those old junk cars and trucks for me.
Yeah.
And so the contractor starts walking through this field of cars and he's like, ma'am, I can get more than scrap out of some of these cars. Some of them are worth some money. So they worked out a deal where the guy would help her sell them for more than scrap and he would just get a cut off the top.
Yeah.
But in that field lied this 55 Chevy. Now, I'd always wanted a 55 Chevy because growing up I watched American Graffiti, and I know John Milner was like the hero of that movie with the 32 Ford Coupe, but I always leaned more towards Harrison Ford's 55 Chevy in that movie. And so obviously I know this thing's a four-door, but
still, it's 55 Chevy.
still it's a 55 Chevy Bel Air, and I paid $600 for it.
Unbelievable. Now, did I see that you were going to try to make it run in like 100 days or something? Did I see something like that?
Exactly 130 days to turn this rusty, crusty, decrepit old 55 Chevy into a running, driving automobile in time for the Tri-5 Nationals in Bowling Green, Kentucky. Can it be done? Well, in theory, with enough time, money, and give a damn, you can do anything you want.
Yeah, so,
Okay.
so I had always wanted to go to the Tri-5 Nationals in Bowling Green, Kentucky. And it was getting to be about that time frame for me to go there, but I was like, I think I could get this thing running and make it there.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I bet if I just hammer down, I can
do
get
it.
this thing and drive it there. And so I started another series on all my social media platforms to get it ready for Tri-5 Nationals, and I had a lot of help, you know, from buddies who come over and help me turn wrenches, but also a lot of help from like companies like Classic Performance Products who reached out to me and said, hey, what do you need? We're gonna be there. We'd love to see you there. What do you need? And they actually ended up giving me an entire suspension setup. So all the brakes, all the suspension, everything that's under this thing now, just like
Brand new.
brand new.
Brand new,
Okay,
yeah.
cool. This is happening.
Yeah.
Get this old junk out of the way. Now, swap me. This is worth about $1,000 to some of these
Is it?
Tri-5 guys. Yeah. Windshield trim and A-pillar mounts. All this stuff, man. It's hard to come by sometimes. A lot of times the reproduction pieces don't fit as well as the original stuff, so you have just as much work into a reproduction piece, trying to get it to fit, as opposed to just restoring an original one. So the rear axle is out of a 72 Camaro, I believe, is what it came out of. And I measured the length, or the width of the axle, and the original one that came out of it, the difference between this axle and the axle that came out of it was only 1/4 of an inch on each side, so it literally slid right underneath.
Just slid right in there, didn't it?
Yep, no fabrication required. It was pretty sweet. I did end up making it. The car was not running by the time I got there, and it wasn't due to lack of try. It was a lot of late nights, but I still ended up trailering it there and met with the folks at Classic Performance Products, you know, and it was just a cool experience to go there. It was so much. I think there's like 30,000 people there. It's just a huge event.
I've heard about it. I think I'm gonna try to go next year.
Yeah.
What would you say in this process? What would you say your biggest challenge was?
I would say the biggest challenge on this build so far has been just powering through the rust. Like, this thing it's still rough, as you can see, but every single nut, bolt, and screw on this thing is just fight you every step of the way. But also, when I first got it, the whole thing was complete. You know, it wasn't missing a single thing in the engine bay, but I didn't realize that the motor was locked up.
Yeah.
So I would say that locked up motor kicked my butt the hardest, because I thought for sure I could get it to break free, and I mean, that was a lot of my most popular videos on social media was trying to unlock that engine.
And he never did.
And I never did, because by the time I got the head off, I realized that one of the pistons had imploded and was sitting at the bottom of the oil pan. So that's the
reason why.
So underneath the hood is a 235 Chevrolet inline 6 out of a 61 Apache pickup truck. It's a motor I got off of Marketplace, $500.
Wow.
It was one of those things that the guy said, it was like freshly rebuilt, and I'm like, yeah, okay, but I pulled the valve cover on it, and that thing is freshly rebuilt. So I wanted to play around with it a little bit, and I decided I wanted to do something different, so I decided to do a fuel injection swap on it, because I was like, that'd be kind of cool. And there's a few companies out there that offer 4-barrel conversions for these things, split manifold setups. So I got a hold of Clifford Performance, and I got one of their split manifold setups, and then I got a Phytech fuel injection kit for it. And I went to go put the throttle body on, and my new master cylinder and booster were like not clearing the throttle body, because there's just not enough clearance. I was like, okay, I'll just put a carb spacer on.
Yeah.
So I put a carb spacer on, and it still didn't clear. I was like, okay. Guess I'm putting another carb spacer on.
Yeah.
And I basically made a 6-banger tunnel ram is essentially what I did.
Yeah.
But in a weird way, it upped the cool factor, because you don't see that every day.
Yeah.
Like, who thinks
Who thinks of doing that?
Putting a tunnel ram on a 6-banger? Just me, I guess.
Well, so I guess we know it's not running today, right?
Right.
So I think we'll have to come back when it is running. When do you think that will be?
I'm hoping by the end of the month. Ooh. She spins.
Is that a bullet hole?
Oh yeah.
Okay, all right.
That's easily got to be a 44 Magnum.
Okay.
That's a big bullet hole right there.
All right.
Best thing I think about a 55 Chevy or any Tri-5 Chevy is, even if you're not a car person, you recognize those cars. They're all different in their own way, in the sense of like 55s are very common. People like to build them into gassers and stuff like that. 56s are more of like the resto mod, grand touring people who like to put LSs in them and drive them across the country. And 57s, a lot of people like to just get them restored, because they've got all that chrome and that style and class on the dash. Like, there's just something different for those Tri-5 Chevys.
Now, what would you say is the hardest parts for these cars to come by?
The hardest part about these cars is some of the parts are relatively expensive because of the prestige of these cars, especially the chrome and all that stuff. But the good news is the parts are there. Like, you could build a Tri-5 Chevy out of a box.
Okay.
Pretty much. But if you needed an original nice grille or a hood, a lot of guys know the value of them, and
they ask for it. They get it.
And they get it. 100%.
Okay. Now, what would you say after this whole project so far would be your best memory?
I would say the best memory of this car was getting it home. I think for me, being a young kid, always wanting a Tri-5 Chevy and coming home and seeing that thing in my driveway, like,
that's mine.
I did it.
Yeah.
I fulfilled a lifelong dream of owning a Tri-5 Chevy. So just that first drive-in, when I first got it, and just seeing it parked out front, I was just like, man, that was a cool feeling.
That's a cool feeling. If you've seen this, or anybody that's seen this, it's always the last question I ask is, now, would you sell this car?
Would I sell the car? Well, I think everything has a price, but I know for me, there's a little bit of sentimental value to it, because it is my first Tri-5 Chevy. I think you would have to offer me way more than what it's actually worth, but I'm open to it. But for right now, I just want to cruise it and enjoy it for at least one more year before I even consider it.